All right. So the DNA didn't match me before the trial. They showed the semen on the victim didn't match. And then the prosecutor got the medical examiner to commit perjury and commit fraud. He claimed that he remembered that he forgot to document medical evidence that he said showed the victim was promiscuous. And then that allowed the prosecutor to argue, oh, it doesn't matter, the DNA doesn't match you, that doesn't mean he's innocent, that there was yet another person that she must have slept with before you murdered and raped her, which doesn't make any sense, because that would mean there would be seminal fluid for two people if that was the case. And then in addition to that, he took it a step further and mentioned another person by name that he claimed that slept with the victim, but he never called this other student as a witness. He never asked him for a DNA test. He just made the unsupported argument to the jury. And at the same time, my public defender essentially didn't defend me. He didn't call my alibi as a witness. He rarely met with me. When I tried to explain I was innocent, what happened in the interrogation room, he was always shutting me up. One time he told me he didn't care if I was guilty or innocent. He never cross-examined this medical examiner. He never made use of the DNA evidence. And in terms of the confession, it was not videotaped. It was no audio tape. There was no signed confession. It was just the cop's word for it. And when they came to court, they left the threat and false promise out of their story. So when you defend the case where there's a confession, you got to answer that confession. You got to explain it. You have to disprove it. In many ways you can. You bring it all together in your closing argument. But he didn't do that. He wouldn't allow me to testify. And then also, in addition to that, sometimes he argued to the jury the confession never happened. At other times he argued, oh, the confession happened, but it was coerced. And at still other times he was arguing that it happened, but it was false. So basically he destroyed his own credibility as an attorney. You can't be all over the place making all these different, just throwing stuff against the wall. Then people are going to think you're going to say whatever you need to say. So
but the judge went along with that, correct? Even though he was
yes,
all over the place,
the judge went along with that. Yes, he did. And the judge did things on his end of it also, which led this thing to go south. So so polygraph results are not allowable in the courtroom unless both sides agree, because it's not reliable. But even though that's the rule, he allowed the polygraphers to keep telling the jury that I failed the polygraph. And then the victim's clothes was entered into evidence, including the bra, which matched to one of the statements. I said I ripped her bra off. So the jury asked to see the bra, which was important because there's some bras, the way that they're made, you can't pull that off of a body. So that's when the judge said, well, the evidence, including this bra, have been left in the courtroom over the weekend, and the janitors thought it was garbage. So they threw it out. So it's not available anymore. And lastly, the jury sent out a note asking the judge, if we can't come up with a verdict, that we're going to have to be sequestered over the Christmas holiday, meaning kept in a hotel. You can't watch the TV, the news, limited. And the judge said yes. And so I learned many years later that at that point it was 11-1. There was one holdout juror who didn't think I was guilty. And he said they were all pressuring him. And that at the end, when that note came back, none of them wanted to be stuck over the Christmas holiday, including him. And that was why he switched his vote. They just wanted to get out of there. So he switched his vote to guilty, even though he didn't think I was guilty. And so the end result of all of that together was that I was wrongfully convicted, and I was given a 15 to life sentence, even though the judge said to me, maybe you are innocent. He still sentenced me instead of overturning the conviction, and I was sent to a maximum security prison.
Come on, man. And this is the judicial system that we think is doing our people some justice. This is the same system that didn't do right by the Central Park 5. They didn't do right by my man Jeff right here. They didn't do right by my friend Mike, because just like you, if I'm not mistaken, he had a public defender. And like you mentioned, those public defenders don't defend you. A lot of times they tell you to plead guilty for a lesser charge